Captain Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the starship Stellar Harmony, watching the blue and green planet slowly grow larger on the main screen. Earth looked peaceful from space, with white clouds swirling over vast oceans and brown continents. It was hard to believe that this small world had been sending radio signals into space for over a century. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the planet," announced Lieutenant Yoon-ji from her communications station. "They're speaking multiple languages, but our translators are working on it." Hyun-woo nodded. This was always the most delicate part of first contact. The United Federation of Planets had been meeting new species for over 300 years, and they had learned to be very careful. Some species panicked when they saw alien ships. Others tried to attack. A few simply refused to believe aliens existed at all. "Put them through," Hyun-woo said, straightening his blue Federation uniform. The screen flickered, and suddenly he was looking at two humans. One was a man with graying hair wearing what looked like a white coat. The other was a woman in a dark blue suit. Both seemed remarkably calm for people who were about to meet aliens for the first time. "Greetings," said the man in accented but clear Federation standard. "I am Dr. Min-ho, and this is Ambassador Yu-jin. We represent the United Nations of Earth." "We've been expecting you." Hyun-woo blinked in surprise. Expecting them? That was unusual. Most primitive species were shocked by first contact. "Greetings, Dr. Min-ho and Ambassador Yu-jin. I am Captain Hyun-woo of the United Federation of Planets. You say you were expecting us?" Dr. Min-ho smiled. "We detected your ship 3 days ago when you entered our solar system. Your technology is impressive, but not completely invisible to our instruments. We've been monitoring space for signs of intelligent life for many decades. This was definitely not going according to the usual first contact protocols." Hyun-woo glanced at Commander Ji-woo, his cultural specialist, who looked equally surprised. Most species couldn't detect Federation ships until they wanted to be detected. "We come in peace," Hyun-woo continued, falling back on the standard greeting. "The Federation welcomes all intelligent species who wish to join our community of worlds. We have much to offer your people." Ambassador Yu-jin leaned forward slightly. "And we appreciate that, Captain. We've studied your transmissions and learned about your Federation. It sounds like a wonderful organization. We would be honored to begin the process of joining you." On the bridge of the Stellar Harmony, Dr. Tae-hyun shook his head in amazement. The xenobiologist had studied dozens of first contact situations, and he had never seen humans react so calmly. Usually there were demands for proof, arguments about whether the aliens were real, and lots of fear and confusion. "If I may ask," said Commander Ji-woo, stepping forward, "how did your people prepare for this moment?" Most species require significant time to accept the existence of other intelligent life. Dr. Min-ho chuckled. "Humans have been imagining contact with alien life for centuries. We have books, movies, and television shows about meeting aliens. Some show friendly contact, others show hostile encounters. We've thought about this possibility for a very long time." "Fascinating," murmured Dr. Tae-hyun. "They've culturally prepared themselves for contact through entertainment and speculation." Ambassador Yu-jin nodded. "We've also been listening to your public transmissions for the past 50 years. We know about the Federation's values of peace, cooperation, and mutual assistance. These align well with Earth's goals." Captain Hyun-woo was impressed despite himself. These humans had done their homework. But now came the formal part of first contact. "As is our custom, we would like to present your world with a starter kit. This contains basic technology, cultural information, and guidelines to help your species integrate into galactic society." He gestured to Lieutenant Yoon-ji, who brought forward a sleek silver case about the size of a briefcase. Inside were standard items that the Federation gave to all new species: a basic computer interface, medical scanners, energy production blueprints, and a comprehensive guide to Federation law and customs. "We are grateful for your generosity," said Ambassador Yu-jin. However, we have a small request. We would like to share our own version of a starter kit with you. We call it the Humanity Starter Kit. The bridge crew exchanged glances. This was definitely not normal. No primitive species had ever offered the Federation anything during first contact. They usually spent years just trying to understand the technology they were given. Dr. Tae-hyun whispered to Commander Ji-woo, "This is highly irregular. What could they possibly have that would be useful to us?" Commander Ji-woo looked curious rather than dismissive. "Perhaps we should find out. It might give us valuable insight into their culture." Captain Hyun-woo made a decision. Diplomacy was about respect and understanding even when dealing with less advanced species. "We would be honored to examine your Humanity Starter Kit, Ambassador Yu-jin. The Federation values cultural exchange above all else." Dr. Min-ho smiled broadly. "Excellent. We believe that the best way to understand a species is to see what they consider essential for survival and success. Our starter kit contains items that every human learns to use, things that have helped our species survive and thrive on Earth." "Should we beam down to your planet?" asked Captain Hyun-woo. "If you don't mind, we'd prefer to come up to your ship," said Ambassador Yu-jin. "We've prepared a small delegation, and we're quite excited to see Federation technology firsthand." An hour later, Captain Hyun-woo stood in the main conference room, watching as 3 humans materialized on the transporter pad. Dr. Min-ho and Ambassador Yu-jin were joined by a younger woman in a practical jumpsuit who was introduced as Engineer, Daeun. Daeun looked around the conference room with obvious fascination, her eyes taking in every detail of the advanced technology. "Incredible," she murmured. "The power distribution alone must be—" "Da-un," Ambassador Yu-jin said gently, and the engineer stopped herself with an embarrassed smile. Dr. Min-ho carried a simple metal case, much smaller and plainer than the Federation's elegant starter kit. "Before we begin," he said, "I should explain that these items may seem very basic to you. Your technology is obviously far more advanced than ours, but we believe that sometimes the simplest tools are the most valuable." Dr. Tae-hyun tried not to look skeptical, but he wasn't entirely successful. The Federation had science and technology that these humans couldn't even imagine. What could they possibly have that would be interesting, let alone useful? "We're honored by your offer," said Captain Hyun-woo diplomatically. "Please, show us what you consider essential for humanity." As Dr. Min-ho opened the case, Captain Hyun-woo had no idea that this moment would change everything the Federation thought they knew about intelligence, technology, and survival. Dr. Min-ho opened the metal case with careful hands. Inside, nestled in simple foam padding, were objects that made the Federation officers lean forward in confusion. These were not the advanced devices they had expected. There was a roll of silver. Tape, a red multi-tool with various blades and tools folded into the handle, a small jar of brown powder, a colorful cube made of smaller squares, a bent piece of metal wire, a small bottle of white tablets, a spray can, a tube of clear liquid, a roll of white paper, and a thin booklet. Dr. Tae-hyun stared at the contents and tried not to look disappointed. These looked like primitive tools that the Federation had stopped using thousands of years ago. "These are interesting," he said politely. Commander Ji-woo was more direct. "Could you explain what these items are and why they're important to your species?" Dr. Min-ho smiled, clearly expecting this reaction. "Of course. Each of these represents something fundamental about how humans approach problems." He picked up the roll of silver tape first. "This is what we call duct tape. It's designed to seal air ducts, but humans use it for almost everything." "Everything?" asked Lieutenant Yoon-ji. Engineer Da-yoon stepped forward enthusiastically. "We use it to fix broken things, hold things together, mark locations, make temporary repairs, even fashion tools and clothing in emergencies. There's a human saying, if You can't fix it with duct tape. You're not using enough duct tape. Dr. Tae-hyun looked puzzled. But surely you have molecular bonding agents and nano-repair systems. We do now, said Dr. Minho. But duct tape works when those systems fail. It's simple, reliable, and doesn't need power or complex instructions. He picked up the red multi-tool next. This is a Swiss Army knife. It contains multiple tools in one compact device. He began unfolding various implements: blades, scissors, screwdrivers, can openers, and other small tools. We have similar devices, said Commander Ji-woo, but each tool is specialized and much more precise. True, agreed Ambassador Yu-jin, but this means any human can carry a basic workshop. When our specialized tools break or run out of power, we still have backups. Dr. Minho demonstrated by using the knife to tighten a loose panel on the conference table. It's not perfect, but it works. Next, he held up the jar of brown powder. This is instant coffee. It's a stimulant drink that can be made with just hot water. Dr. Tae-hyun looked confused. We have much more efficient chemical stimulants. Engineer Da-eun grinned. But coffee does more than just keep you awake. It's a ritual, a comfort, something familiar when everything else is strange. Humans have explored dangerous places and done impossible things fueled by coffee and determination. The colorful cube came next. This is a Rubik's Cube, explained Dr. Minho. It's a puzzle with over 43 quintillion possible combinations, but only one solution. What's the practical application? Asked Commander Ji-woo. It teaches patience, logical thinking, and the understanding that complex problems often have simple solutions if you approach them correctly, said Ambassador Yu-jin. Every human child learns that even the most scrambled situation can be solved with the right sequence of moves. Dr. Minho picked up the bent wire. This is a paperclip, designed to hold papers together, but humans use them for everything else. He began reshaping it. Lock picking, circuit repairs, temporary fasteners, electronic resets. Sometimes the simplest tool is the most versatile. The small bottle of tablets was next. Aspirin, said Dr. Minho. It reduces pain and inflammation. Not the most advanced medicine, but it's stable, reliable, and works for a wide variety of problems. We have targeted cellular repair systems, pointed out Dr. Tae-hyun, which are excellent when they work, agreed Engineer Dae-yeon. But aspirin works when you're in a cave with no power, no medical facilities, and no other options. The spray can made Dr. Tae-hyun shake his head in bewilderment. WD-40, explained Dr. Minho. It displaces water and reduces friction. We spray it on anything that's stuck, rusty, or squeaky. We have molecular lubricants and corrosion inhibitors, said Lieutenant Yoonji. But WD-40 is simple, works on almost anything, and doesn't require a degree in chemistry to use, said Ambassador Yu-jin. Sometimes good enough is better than perfect. The tube of clear liquid was next. Super glue, said Dr. Minho. It bonds almost anything to anything else in seconds. Engineer Da-yoon added, humans have used superglue to fix everything from broken equipment to broken bones in emergency situations. It's not always the right solution, but it's often the fast solution. Dr. Minho held up the roll of white paper. Toilet paper. For, well, sanitation obviously, but also cleaning, marking, padding, fire starting, emergency bandages. Humans find uses for everything. Finally, he picked up the small booklet. And this is the most important item, Murphy's Law. The principle that anything that can go wrong will go wrong. The Federation officers looked confused. Commander Ji-woo asked, why would you consider that important? Dr. Minho opened the booklet and read, Murphy's Law teaches us to plan for failure, to expect the unexpected, and to always have backup plans for our backup plans. If you assume everything will work perfectly, you'll be unprepared when it doesn't. Engineer Da-yoon nodded enthusiastically. Every human engineer knows Murphy's Law. We design systems expecting them to fail, and we always prepare alternatives. Ambassador, Yujin looked at the confused Federation officers. These items might seem primitive to you, but they represent something important about humanity. We don't just solve problems, we prepare for problems we haven't even thought of yet. Dr. Tae-hyun was trying hard to be diplomatic. These are interesting cultural artifacts. But surely you understand that our technology is far more advanced and reliable? Dr. Minho smiled and pointed to a blinking red light on the wall display. Actually, I couldn't help but notice that panel has been showing an error message since we arrived. Your people seem to be ignoring it. Commander Ji-woo looked embarrassed. It's a minor sensor malfunction. We're waiting for the repair technicians to fix it properly. May I? Asked Engineer Da-eun, pulling out the roll of duct tape. Dr. Tae-hyun started to object, but Captain Hyun-woo held up a hand. Let's see what she can do. Engineer Da-eun examined the panel for a moment, then used the duct tape to secure a loose connection that the sophisticated Federation sensors had missed. The error light immediately went out. The conference room fell silent. Dr. Tae-hyun stared at the now functioning panel, his mouth slightly open. Sometimes, said Dr. Minho gently, the simplest solution is the best solution. That's what our starter kit is really about. Not the tools themselves, but the mindset of being ready for anything. Captain Hyun-woo looked at the simple items in the case with new interest. These humans had just fixed a problem that had been annoying his crew for days, using what looked like primitive tape. Maybe there was more to this humanity starter kit than met the eye. 3 days later, Captain Hyun-woo received an urgent message from Admiral So-young at Federation Command. Her image appeared on his private comm screen, looking both excited and concerned. Captain, we've been monitoring your first contact reports. With great interest, Admiral So-young said. The humans seem unusual. I'm ordering a joint mission to test their capabilities. A test, Admiral? Hyun-woo asked. There's a derelict ship in the asteroid field near their solar system. It's Vexatai technology, about 3,000 years old. Our scientists have been trying to understand it for decades. I want you to take a joint Federation human team aboard and see how they handle unknown alien technology. Captain Hyun-woo understood. The Vextai were an extinct species whose ships were found throughout the galaxy. Their technology was incredibly advanced, but it didn't work like anything the Federation understood. Most Vextai ships were too dangerous to explore because their automated systems were unpredictable. I'll speak with the humans, Hyun-woo said. An hour later, he was back in the conference room with Dr. Minho, Ambassador Yujin, and Engineer Da-eun. He explained the situation carefully. The ship is potentially dangerous, he warned. Vexatai technology is completely different from ours. Their ships have been known to trap exploration teams, and some have never been recovered. Engineer Da-eun's eyes lit up with excitement. Unknown alien technology? That sounds fascinating. Dr. Tae-hyun, who was also present, looked worried. Perhaps the humans should observe from a safe distance while we handle the dangerous work. Dr. Minho shook his head politely. We appreciate your concern, but humans learn best by doing. If you're willing to take the risk, so are we. Ambassador. Yujin added, besides, different perspectives might be useful when dealing with unknown technology. What seems impossible to one species might be obvious to another. Captain Hyun-woo made the decision. Very well. We'll take 2 teams aboard. Lieutenant Yoon-ji will lead the Federation team, and Sergeant Woo-jin from Earth's military will lead the human team. The derelict Vextai ship was massive, easily 3 times the size of the Stellar Harmony. It hung silently in space, its dark hull covered with strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift when no one was looking directly at them. Scans show the ship still has power, reported Lieutenant Yoon-ji, as the 2 teams prepared to beam aboard. Life support is functioning in some sections, but the layout doesn't match any known ship design. Sergeant Woo-jin, a calm woman with short black hair, checked her equipment one final time. She carried a standard Federation communicator and scanner, but also a backpack filled with items from the Humanity Starter Kit. Remember, she told her team, which included Engineer Da-Yun and Dr. Min-ho. "We don't know what we're dealing with. Stay flexible and be ready for anything." The teams beamed aboard into what appeared to be a cargo bay. The walls were covered with the same shifting patterns, and the air had a strange metallic taste. Immediately, the Federation teams advanced. Scanners began taking detailed readings. "Energy signatures are off the charts," reported Lieutenant Yunji. "The power source appears to be some kind of spatial distortion generator. I've never seen anything like it." Engineer Da-Un was examining the walls with a simple flashlight and magnifying glass from her pack. "These patterns aren't just decorative," she said. "There's some kind of interface system. Look how they respond to body heat." As if triggered by her words, the patterns on the walls suddenly flared bright blue. A loud humming filled the air, and heavy barriers slammed down, separating the two teams into different sections of the ship. "Federation team, respond!" Captain Yun-Woo's voice crackled over the communicators. "We're trapped, Captain," Lieutenant Yunji replied, trying to stay calm. "The barriers appear to be made of some kind of energy field. Our tools can't cut through them." On the other side of the barrier, Sergeant Wu Jin was assessing their situation. "Life support is still working, but these walls are completely sealed. Dr. Minho, any ideas?" Dr. Minho was studying his Federation scanner, which was showing increasingly alarming readings. "The ship's systems are activating throughout the vessel. I think our presence triggered some kind of security protocol." Engineer Dae-eun was already unpacking her kit. "Well, we can't go through the walls and we can't wait for rescue, so we need to find another way out." She pulled out the roll of duct tape and the Swiss Army knife. "Let's see what this ship doesn't expect." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Yunji was growing more concerned. The Federation team's sophisticated equipment was giving them detailed information about their prison, but no solutions. The energy barriers were incredibly complex, powered by the ship's unknown technology. "We need to interface with the ship's computer system," said Dr. Tae-hyun, pulling out an advanced Federation computer core. "If we can understand the programming language, we might be able to override the security protocols." But every attempt to connect their technology to the ship's systems failed. The Vextai technology operated on completely different principles, using energy patterns and spatial distortions that Federation science couldn't easily understand. On the other side, the human team was taking a different approach. Engineer Da-Yun had found an access panel and was examining it with her flashlight. "This looks like some kind of maintenance hatch," she said, "but the locking mechanism is completely alien." Dr. Minho looked at the complex geometric shapes that seemed to be the lock. "It's like a three-dimensional puzzle. But we don't know the solution." Sergeant Wu Jin pulled out the Rubik's Cube from their kit. "Maybe we don't need to know the solution. Maybe we need to change the problem." She began examining how the lock's pieces moved, comparing them to the cube's mechanics. Engineer Da-eun understood immediately. "You're right. Instead of trying to solve their puzzle, let's make our own solution." She used the paperclip to probe the mechanism, finding where the geometric pieces connected. "Da-eun, what are you doing?" Dr. Minho asked nervously. "Something that would probably horrify Dr. Tae-hyun," she replied, using the duct tape to hold several pieces in the wrong position while she manipulated others with the Swiss Army knife. "I'm not trying to open this lock the way it was designed. I'm forcing it to open the way I need it to." The lock clicked, and the panel swung open, revealing a narrow maintenance shaft. "Federation team," Sergeant Wu Jin called over the communicator. "We found a way out of our section. We're going to try to reach your location through the ship's maintenance systems." Lieutenant Yunji's voice was strained. "Be careful. Our life support is starting to fail. The ship seems to be trying to force us to interface with its systems, but every attempt makes things worse." "Understood," replied Sergeant Wu Jin. "We're coming to get you. Just hold on." As the human team crawled through the maintenance shaft, Dr. Minho couldn't help but smile. The Federation's advanced technology had all the answers, but sometimes having all the answers was the problem. Sometimes you needed to ignore the rules and make your own solution. Behind them, the patterns on the walls pulsed angrily, as if the ship was frustrated that someone was refusing to play by its rules. Engineer Da-Un crawled through the maintenance shaft with her flashlight between her teeth and the Swiss Army knife in her hand. Behind her, Dr. Min Ho and Sergeant Wu Jin followed closely as they navigated the strange alien passages. The ship's architecture makes no sense, Dr. Min Ho whispered. These passages seem to curve back on themselves. Maybe that's the point, replied Da-Yun, pausing to examine a junction where three tubes met at impossible angles. Maybe the Vextai didn't think in straight lines like we do. She pulled out the paperclip and bent it into a hook, using it to trigger a hidden mechanism. The passage opened into a larger space filled with humming machinery. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Stellar Harmony, Captain Hyun Woo was monitoring both teams with growing concern. The Federation team's life support readings were dropping steadily, while the human team had disappeared into sections of the ship that didn't appear on any scans. Captain, Dr. Tae-hyun's voice came through the communicator, sounding frustrated. We've tried everything. The ship's computer system is completely incompatible with our technology. It's like trying to speak to someone who doesn't just use a different language, but thinks in completely different concepts. Commander Ji Woo was watching the readings carefully. Sir, the ship seems to be responding to the Federation team's attempts to interface with it. Every time they try to connect their systems, the security protocols become more aggressive. On the other side of the ship, Lieutenant Yoon-ji was fighting panic as the walls began to glow with an ominous red light. The ship is demanding some kind of response from us, she reported, but we can't understand what it wants. Dr. Tae-hyun was frantically running diagnostics on his equipment. Our computers are trying to establish communication protocols, but the ship keeps rejecting them. It's like it expects us to speak its language perfectly, and it won't accept anything less. The temperature in their section was rising, and the air was becoming harder to breathe. In the machinery room, Engineer Da-Un was taking a very different approach. She had found what appeared to be a control panel, but instead of trying to understand it, she was systematically testing what each control did. Da-Yun, that could be dangerous, warned Dr. Min Ho. So is leaving Lieutenant Yoon-ji's team to suffocate, she replied, using WD-40 to free a stuck control that was corroded with age. Look, this ship has been dead for 3,000 years. Whatever the Vextai programmed it to do, it's not working anymore. The systems are confused and running old routines that don't make sense. She sprayed more WD-40 on several connectors and then used the duct tape to bypass what appeared to be a safety interlock. I'm not trying to speak to this ship. I'm trying to fix it. Sergeant Wu Jin understood immediately. You're treating it like a broken machine instead of an intelligent system. Exactly, Da-Un replied, using super glue to secure a loose connection. The Federation team is trying to have a conversation with it, but it's like trying to talk to a car that won't start. Sometimes you need to fix the engine before you can drive. She pulled out the instant coffee and mixed it with some water from her emergency supplies. This might sound crazy, but coffee is mildly acidic. It can clean electrical contacts. She used the mixture to clean several corroded connections that her flashlight had revealed. The machinery around them began to hum differently, and the red glow from the walls shifted to amber. Federation team, Sergeant Wu Jin called over the communicator. Are you seeing any changes? Lieutenant Yoon-ji's voice was weak but relieved. The temperature is dropping and the air is getting better. What did you do? We fixed some broken parts, Engineer Da-Un replied simply. But we're not done yet. This ship is still confused about what it's supposed to do. Dr. Min Ho was watching Da-Un work with fascination. She wasn't following any manual or trying to understand the alien technology. She was just identifying what was broken and fixing it with whatever tools she had. The ship's systems are designed to interface with Vextai physiology, he realized. But the Vextai are extinct. The ship has been trying to establish communication with beings who no longer exist. Dayun nodded, using the paperclip to short-circuit what appeared to be a communications array. So instead of trying to talk to it in Vextai, we need to convince it that it doesn't need to talk at all. She pulled out the aspirin and crushed 2 tablets, mixing them with water. Aspirin breaks down into salicylic acid. It's a mild solvent. She used the mixture to clean more connections, then applied duct tape to create new pathways around damaged circuits. The ship's humming changed again, becoming more harmonious. The wall patterns shifted from amber to green. Life support is stabilizing throughout the ship, reported Captain Hyunwoo from the Stellar Harmony. Whatever you're doing, it's working. But Engineer Dayun wasn't finished. She had found what appeared to be the main control hub, a complex array of crystalline structures that pulsed with energy. Most were dark or flickering weakly. The ship's central computer is partially failed, she explained. It's running on maybe 20% of its original capacity. That's why it's so confused and aggressive. She began using her tools to bypass failed sections and reroute power through working systems. When delicate work was needed, she used the precision tools from the Swiss Army knife. When brute force was required, she applied duct tape and superglue. Dr. Min Ho was taking notes, frantically. This is incredible. You're not trying to understand the technology. You're treating it like any other broken machine. Because that's what it is, Dayun replied, using WD-40 to free a stuck power coupling. Technology is technology. The principles are the same whether it's human, Federation, or Vextai. Energy needs to flow, connections need to be secure, and broken parts need to be bypassed or replaced. Sergeant Wu Jin was monitoring the ship's responses. The security systems are standing down. The barriers are retracting. A few minutes later, Lieutenant Yoonji and her team joined them in the control room. Dr. Tae Hyun stared in amazement at the improvised repairs that had saved their lives. "You fixed it," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "You actually fixed 3,000-year-old alien technology with duct tape and coffee." Engineer Da-Yun shrugged. "I fixed some broken connections and bypassed some failed systems. The technology isn't magical just because it's alien." Dr. Tae Hyun looked at his sophisticated Federation scanners and computers, then at the simple tools that had proven more effective. "But our equipment is designed specifically for situations like this. We have protocols, procedures, entire databases of technical knowledge." "And that's the problem," said Dr. Min Ho gently. "Your equipment tried to do everything perfectly. But perfect solutions don't work when you're dealing with imperfect problems." Lieutenant Yoonji was studying the now functional control systems. "The ship is actually quite cooperative now that its basic systems are working properly. It's sharing its technical databases freely. Because we stopped trying to force it to do what we wanted and started helping it do what it was designed to do," explained Sergeant Wu Jin. As they prepared to leave the derelict ship, Dr. Tae Hyun couldn't stop looking at the simple tools that had accomplished what Federation technology couldn't. Engineer Da-Yoon noticed his expression. "It's not about the tools," she said kindly. "It's about the approach. Sometimes the most advanced solution is to ignore the advanced options and use the simple ones." She held up the roll of duct tape. "This isn't better than your molecular bonding agents. But it works when your molecular bonding agents can't interface with alien technology." Dr. Tae Hyun nodded slowly, beginning to understand. The humans hadn't succeeded because their tools were superior. They had succeeded because they approached problems differently, and that difference was starting to worry him. Admiral So Young sat in the emergency council chamber aboard Federation Command Station, watching the recorded footage from the Vextai ship for the 3rd time. Around the curved table sat the Federation's top scientists, military strategists, and cultural analysts, all looking deeply troubled. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," said Lieutenant Colonel Sung Ho, the Federation's chief military strategist. A human engineer fixed 3,000-year-old alien technology that our best specialists couldn't even communicate with, using primitive tools and household chemicals. Dr. Tae-hyun, who had just returned from the mission, nodded reluctantly. She treated the advanced alien computer system like a broken appliance. She didn't try to understand it or communicate with it. She just fixed it. Commander Ji-woo leaned forward. What concerns me isn't just that she succeeded. It's how quickly she succeeded. Our team spent hours trying to establish communication. Protocols. The human team bypassed the entire problem in minutes. Admiral So-young replayed a section of the recording where Engineer Dae-yoon used coffee to clean electrical contacts. Explain to me again how a beverage became a technical solution. Coffee contains acids that can clean corrosion from metal contacts, Dr. Tae-hyun explained, still sounding amazed. It's not the optimal solution, but it worked when our specialized cleaning agents couldn't interface with the alien metals. That's what I find disturbing, said Dr. Yeon-soo, the Federation's leading computer scientist. They didn't use the optimal solution. They used whatever was available. Their entire approach seems to be based on accepting imperfection and working around limitations. Lieutenant Colonel Sung-ho was studying tactical reports. Admiral, I've been analyzing their problem-solving patterns. In every crisis situation, the humans performed better than our people, but not because they had better tools or training. They succeeded because they approached problems fundamentally differently. How so? Asked Admiral So-young. Our people are trained to find the correct solution. We analyze, plan, and implement precise responses. The humans improvise. They try multiple approaches simultaneously, expecting most of them to fail. Commander Ji-woo nodded. I observed this during cultural interviews. When I asked Ambassador Yu-jin about their contingency planning, she said humans always assume their first plan won't work. They automatically prepare backup plans for their backup plans. Dr. Yeon-soo looked uncomfortable. That seems inefficient. Why prepare for failure when you can engineer success? Because, said Dr. Tae-hyun quietly, what happens when your engineered success encounters something you didn't engineer for? Our systems work perfectly within their design parameters, but the human systems work imperfectly in any situation. Admiral So-young stood and walked to the viewing window, looking out at the stars. Are you telling me that these humans are more adaptable than we are? Lieutenant Colonel Sung-ho pulled up a holographic display showing comparative analysis. Admiral, I've been running simulations based on human problem-solving methods. In controlled situations with known parameters, Federation approaches are 30 to 40% more efficient. But in chaotic situations with unknown variables, human approaches are consistently more successful. Define chaotic situations, said Admiral So-young. First contact with hostile species, equipment failures during emergencies, combat situations where standard tactics don't apply, natural disasters, any scenario where you can't predict or control all the variables. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Federation had built their entire civilization on predictability, order, and technological superiority. They had eliminated chaos from their lives through advanced planning and sophisticated systems. Dr. Yeon-soo finally spoke. Are you suggesting that our advancement has made us fragile? Commander Ji-woo had been studying her cultural notes. I think I understand what's happening. Most Federation species evolved in stable environments or developed technology to create stable environments. Earth is different. It's a chaotic world with unpredictable weather, natural disasters, and evolutionary pressures that constantly changed. So, the humans evolved to thrive in chaos, concluded Dr. Tae-hyun. More than that, said Admiral So-young, turning back to the group. They evolved to create order from chaos, but without eliminating the chaos. Their tools, their methods, their entire philosophy is based on working with uncertainty rather than eliminating it. Lieutenant Colonel Sung-ho highlighted another section of his analysis. Admiral, there's something else. The humans shared their starter kit openly, without hesitation. Most species guard their technological advantages carefully. Because they don't see them as advantages, realized Commander Jiwoo. They see them as necessities. To humans, these problem-solving methods aren't secret weapons. They're survival basics that everyone should know. Admiral So Young sat back down heavily. Let me ask you all a direct question. If we encountered a situation like the Vextai ship without human assistance, what would have happened to Lieutenant Yoonji's team? The silence was answer enough. Dr. Tae-hyun spoke first. We would have lost them. Our procedures for dealing with unknown alien technology are designed around eventual success through systematic analysis. If the ship's life support had failed faster than our analysis could proceed, we're too specialized, said Dr. Yonsu suddenly. Our technology is incredibly advanced, but it only works when conditions are optimal. The human's technology is less advanced, but it works when conditions are terrible. Lieutenant Colonel Sung Ho was running new calculations. Admiral, I've been thinking about military implications. The humans' approach to problem-solving would be devastating in warfare. They don't follow predictable patterns. They improvise, adapt, and use whatever resources are available in ways no enemy could anticipate. Are you saying they're a threat? Asked Admiral So Young. No, Admiral. I'm saying they think like threats. They approach every problem assuming conventional solutions won't work. They're naturally prepared for asymmetric situations. Commander Jiwoo looked up from her notes. There's something else, Admiral. During the cultural exchange, I noticed that humans don't seem to view their methods as inferior to ours. Ambassador Yu-jin actually seemed sorry for us. Sorry for us? She said that Federation technology was impressive, but she worried that we'd forgotten how to solve problems without it. She asked what would happen if our systems failed and we couldn't repair them. The room fell silent again. Finally, Admiral So Young spoke. Contact Captain Hyunwoo. I want a full report on human technological philosophy, and I want to know... She paused, looking around at her senior staff. I want to know if they would be willing to teach us. Dr. Tae-hyun looked surprised. Teach us what, Admiral? How to solve problems we haven't anticipated. How to succeed when perfect solutions aren't available. How to... She struggled for the words. How to be comfortable with imperfection while still achieving our goals. Lieutenant Colonel Sung Ho understood immediately. You want to learn their starter kit philosophy. I want to learn why a piece of tape and a cup of coffee can accomplish what our most advanced technology cannot, Admiral So Young said firmly. Because I have a feeling that the galaxy is going to present us with more problems like the Vextai ship, and I'd prefer not to lose more teams trying to find perfect solutions to imperfect problems. As the council meeting ended, each member was thinking the same uncomfortable thought. The Federation had spent centuries building a perfect civilization, but perfection was starting to look like a weakness rather than a strength. And somewhere, in space, Engineer Daun was probably fixing something else with duct tape and coffee, solving problems that Federation technology couldn't even understand. 1 week later, Admiral So Young found herself in the most unusual position of her long career, sitting across from Ambassador Yu-jin in the same conference room where this had all started, asking humanity to teach the Federation something. Admiral, said Ambassador Yu-jin with a gentle smile, I have to admit, we didn't expect this conversation. Dr. Min-ho sat beside her, looking equally surprised. When we offered our starter kit, we thought it might provide some cultural insight. We never imagined it would lead to a request for philosophical guidance. Admiral So Young felt oddly embarrassed. Here she was, representing one of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, asking a primitive species for help. But the reports from the Vextai ship had made it clear that Federation advancement had some serious blind spots. Let me be direct, she said. Our analysis of the rescue mission has revealed significant weaknesses in our approach to problem solving. We've become too dependent on our technology working perfectly in controlled conditions. Captain Hyun-woo, who was also present, nodded. Admiral, I've been working with the human team for a week now. Their methods are eye-opening. Engineer Daun was sitting quietly in the corner, looking amused by the formal conversation happening around her simple toolkit. Ambassador Yujin leaned forward. Admiral, before we continue, I need to ask you something important. Are you asking us to teach you our methods because you want to improve your existing systems, or because you're willing to accept that sometimes your existing systems are the wrong approach entirely? The question hung in the air. Admiral So Young realized this was a test. The second one, she said finally. We've built our entire civilization around eliminating uncertainty and chaos, but the galaxy is uncertain and chaotic. We need to learn how to work with that reality instead of trying to control it. Dr. Minho smiled. That's a good start, but learning to think like humans requires accepting some uncomfortable truths about perfection. Such as, Engineer Da-Un finally spoke up. Such as the fact that perfect solutions often fail worse than imperfect ones. Your molecular bonding agents are amazing when they work, but they're useless when they don't. Duct tape is never perfect, but it's never completely useless either. Commander Jiwoo, who had been taking notes, looked up. Could you explain the philosophy behind this approach? Ambassador Yujin thought for a moment. Humans learned early that the universe doesn't care about our plans, natural disasters, predators, equipment failures, accidents. These things happen regardless of how well prepared we think we are. So instead of trying to prevent all problems, we learn to recover from them quickly. Dr. Minho opened the Humanity Starter Kit again. Each of these items represents a principle. Duct tape represents adaptability, making things work even when they're not supposed to. The Swiss Army knife represents versatility, having multiple options available. Murphy's Law represents expectation management, planning for things to go wrong. But how do you maintain quality and efficiency if you're always planning for failure? Asked Dr. Tae-hyun. Engineer Da-Yun laughed. That's the wrong question. Quality and efficiency at what? Your systems are incredibly efficient at working perfectly. Our systems are incredibly efficient at working anyway. She picked up the Rubik's Cube. This puzzle teaches patience and logical thinking, but more importantly, it teaches that there's always a solution even when the situation looks impossible. Sometimes you have to make things worse before you can make them better. Admiral. So Young found herself thinking about the Federation's approach to problems. They always tried to understand everything before acting, to have complete information before making decisions. But what if complete information wasn't available? We want to learn, she said simply. But I need to know. Are you willing to teach us? Ambassador Yujin and Dr. Minho exchanged glances. Ambassador Yujin spoke carefully. Admiral, we're honored by your request. But teaching humans to think like humans isn't just about tools and techniques. It's about accepting a completely different relationship with uncertainty. What do you mean? Federation culture seems to view uncertainty as a problem to be solved, explained Dr. Minho. Human culture views uncertainty as a condition to be navigated. We don't try to eliminate chaos, we try to dance with it. Engineer Dayun held up the roll of duct tape. This tape isn't just a tool, it's a symbol. It represents the human willingness to accept that things break, that plans fail, and that sometimes the best solution is a temporary patch that gets you through until you can find something better. Captain Hyun-woo had been listening carefully. What would a training program look like? Ambassador Yujin smiled. Well, the first lesson would be learning to be comfortable with discomfort. We'd have to put Federation officers in situations where their technology doesn't work, where their protocols don't apply, and where they have to improvise solutions using whatever is available. That sounds... Admiral So Young paused, realizing she was about to say inefficient and catching herself. That sounds challenging. It is, agreed Engineer Da-Un. But that's the point. Humans get comfortable with being uncomfortable. We practice failing so that when real failure happens, we don't panic. Dr. Tae-hyun looked skeptical. But surely, there are situations where precision and careful planning are still the best approach? Absolutely, said Dr. Min-ho. The key is knowing when to use which approach. Sometimes you need a precision laser. Sometimes you need duct tape. Wisdom is knowing which tool fits which situation. Admiral So-young made a decision. I want to propose an exchange program. Federation officers would train with human problem-solving methods. In return, we'd share our most advanced technology with Earth. Ambassador Yu-jin shook her head gently. Admiral, we appreciate the offer, but we don't want your technology. The Federation officers looked shocked. No species had ever turned down advanced technology. We want something much more valuable, continued Ambassador Yu-jin. We want your people to learn our methods not so they can replace your technology, but so they can know what to do when your technology isn't enough. Engineer Da-un pulled out the booklet of Murphy's Law. The universe is big, Admiral. It's full of Vextai ships and other problems that don't fit into neat categories. Your technology is wonderful, but the galaxy is going to throw things at you that your technology can't handle. And when that happens, said Dr. Min-ho, you'll need to know how to fix the unfixable, solve the unsolvable, and accomplish the impossible using whatever happens to be lying around. Admiral So-young looked around at her officers. Dr. Tae-hyun looked uncomfortable but intrigued. Commander Ji-woo was taking rapid notes. Captain Hyun-woo was nodding thoughtfully. Very well, she said. We accept your terms, but I have one question. Why are you willing to help us? You could keep these advantages to yourselves. Ambassador Yu-jin's answer was simple. Because the galaxy is dangerous, Admiral, and we'd rather have capable allies than elegant but fragile ones. Engineer Da-un packed up the starter kit, leaving one item on the table, a roll of duct tape. Your first assignment, she said with a grin. Find 10 different ways to use this that have nothing to do with sealing ducts. Due date is never, because the assignment never ends. There's always one more use for everything if you're creative enough. As the meeting ended, Admiral So-young stared at the roll of tape. It looked so simple, so primitive. But she was beginning to understand that simplicity and primitiveness weren't the same thing. Somewhere in the back of her mind, she could hear the universe laughing. The Federation had spent centuries becoming perfect, only to discover that imperfection might be the most advanced technology of all. 3 months later, Lieutenant Yoon-ji would successfully repair a critical ship system during combat, using nothing but coffee, paper clips, and the patience she learned from solving Rubik's cubes. She would save her entire crew using techniques that weren't in any Federation manual, and Admiral So-young would finally understand what the humans had been trying to tell them. Sometimes the most sophisticated solution is knowing when to use the simple one. The United Federation of Planets had asked what was inside the Humanity Starter Kit. The answer, it turned out, was not a collection of tools, but a completely different way of thinking about problems, solutions, and the relationship between perfection and survival. They were still learning to regret the question, but they were beginning to appreciate the answer.